all the way up to what masters should know. But I submit to you that while that's interesting, since endgames are self-contained, if you are a Class C player, you don't need to just learn what's in there for Class C players. There's no reason why you can't go beyond and learn the expert level or even the master level, because you don't need to have reached those strengths in the opening and middle game phases to have those strengths in the end game. You can become a freak of nature who is a 1200 player overall. But I submit you could be expert strength in end games. And within a year, if you're studying, say, 5 to 10 hours a week, and you're putting maybe a third of that time into end games, that would be enough for you to work your way through this book and play games at an end game at a level 500 to 700 points above your rating. And if you're already highly rated, I'll submit that you can get to 300 or 400 points above your rating. If you're an 1800 player, I submit that you can learn end games like a 2200. If you're around 2000, there's no reason why your end game strength can't be 2400. Okay. It's self-contained. That is the most important thing I'm going to say to you. Middle games. Pawn structures. Single most important thing that you can do to understand the middle game is to understand pawn structures. It drives everything. How to decide whether you should exchange certain minor pieces. Is a pawn structure better for a bishop, or is it better for a knight? Should you be in a position where you're compelled to attack, or are you in a position where you're trying to trade down into an endgame? That's a situation with isolated queen pawns. If you have an isolated queen pawn, you're not headed into the endgame. Your opponent's trying to. A million other examples I could give, but pawns are the soul of chess, as the saying goes. There's a question of which way they point. You'll learn what that means. It tells you whether you should play on the king side or perhaps on the queen side. And so study pawn structures. Here is one good book, a recent one called The Power of Pawns. Okay. There's another fantastic book called Pawn Power in Chess. It's an old classic from mid-century. I just wasn't able to get a hard copy in time to show it to you. I recommend you read this book, but you also go get the classic Pawn Power in Chess. If you read a pawn structure book and then just one other book called My System, classic, 100 years old, by the old chess philosopher Aaron Imzovich. This has something about all the elements, open file, 7th rank, pawn structures. Read this one. These are the only two things you need to do. This and pawn structure. Openings. People spend too much time on the opening. Way too much time on the opening. But you do want to study it. So, find one of those beginner books. They'll have titles like Starting Out with the King's Indian, or Starting Out with the English, and there's some other titles like that. You look on Amazon with the name of your opening, you'll see some of the beginner books. Read those to learn the concepts. They'll explain the concepts. But then, how do you, I hesitate to use the word memorize because you also need understanding, but there is memorization. How do you memorize those lines? It's a lot like learning a language. You're gonna fake yourself out if you're only reading a grammar. The moment you step away from that grammar and you try to start speaking, you're gonna realize it's really not deep in you. The way that you can learn the openings, you have to drill them into you by being forced to play the right move, almost in a flashcard kind of way. And there is an app for that has come out recently called Lotus, L-O-T-U-S Chess. It is phenomenal for people at all levels. I am using it. And it takes you through different levels at each opening and teaches you the lines. And then it will test you constantly with kind of flashcards. And it will remember that 2 weeks ago you made a mistake in this particular position. It's going to over-test you again on that until this is just drilled in you. Now, you have to combine that with understanding why these moves are being recommended. That's why you have a good book about the opening. And then, of course, spend some time when you're doing lotus chess trying to understand why it is making certain recommendations. But it will help you with the memorization part, put you so far ahead, teach you so much faster than anybody else has ever been able to learn. Are you using it?
It's great. It's amazing. I use the Joe Baba London, and I just kind of had a vague understanding of it by watching YouTube videos. And then one of the YouTube videos recommended that, and it's really helped me understand where I was making mistakes, and my memorization of it is a lot better, a lot faster.
Oh, absolutely. I was doing a Joe Baba London too. You buy Simon Williams' book, starting out with the Joe Baba London, and then you do the lotus chess with it. Those are the recommendations for the 3 areas. Now, how much time should you spend playing online? Online is a fantastic thing that, a lot of us, we didn't have that opportunity. We were only able to get together at a club or at a tournament and play some speed chess with each other. But it can also ruin your chess progress if you just get on there and play games too casually, too fast, too much just for fun. You'll trick yourself into thinking you're really improving. What should you do? Well, you should play a lot of fairly fast games because you need to get pattern recognition. If any of you read Malcolm Gladwell about how long you have to spend practicing something, whether it's a sport or a musical instrument, to really be proficient at it, it's the same in chess. You need to have played thousands of games to have the kind of pattern recognition. But you're only going to get that if you play slowly enough that it's not just some crazy 2-minute game with a 1-second interment or a 1-minute bullet. That's entertaining, it's fun, but it's not good for your chess. I would submit that the optimal is about 5 minutes with a 3-second increment, maybe 10 minutes with a 5-second instrument. If you're a really strong player, 3 minutes and 2 seconds would be okay. But somewhere in that 5, 3, 10, 5, you're going to get a lot of games in. Don't try the 30 or 60 minute games. They'll be higher quality games, but you won't get enough games in. It's about getting that Malcolm Gladwell concept. Sometimes when the game's been interesting, stop and have the computer analyze it for you. When the game's over on most of these sites like chess.com, you can just immediately ask the computer to analyze the whole game for you and even make recommendations to you on what kinds of things you need to study. That's optimal. Hopefully you could put 10 hours a week into your chess study if you're serious about it. That's how much time it takes to learn a musical instrument, a foreign language, or a sport. That would be 500 hours a year. 100 hours on this, you're going to be playing endgames like an expert, possibly a master, no matter what your strength level is. You'll certainly know your openings, and you'll have read through all of this. If you can only study 5 hours a week, life demands. Those are my recommendations. I feel strongly that all of them are very correct, and would invite you to pursue some or all of those strategies. And don't ruin it by just playing super hyper blitz chess online. Okay. There might be just a couple minutes for some questions or comments. Appreciate it.
The other thing about Lotus Chess is you sign in and you give your lead chess and your chess.com name, and it'll scan all your games, and it'll say, oh, this is the opening you seem to like the most, and these are the areas where you seem to make mistakes. It automatically gives you those flashcards for the areas you have trouble with. It really personalizes your training very well. That Lotus Chess is really the best thing I've ever done.
It even sees the strength of your opposition and trains you against players who aren't always going to play the best one.
Right.
It's very practical.
It is. It really is.
Okay, well, there's been a great turnout. We want to thank Eric for organizing this, and Bruce Draney, expert player and longtime organizer and chess historian. Let's give some applause. And also want to acknowledge Joe Knapp and Kirill Belashenko, who are both expert players, as Bruce has been as well, who have come from Omaha and Lincoln, respectively. We're very pleased to have two of the very top players in the state. Everybody have a great time. I will give away the Endgame book and the Pawn book at my discretion to somebody who I see today plays an interesting Endgame and somebody who plays an interesting pawn structure. I can't give away the my system. Eric's already working on my system. Good pick. All right. Good luck, everyone. Have fun.
All right.
Thank you.